The rain hammered against the windows as Cho and Elvis scrambled into the back of the black SUV, gasping for breath. Her wet uniform clung to her curves as she collapsed against leather seats far too expensive for any rideshare. "Thank God," she breathed until a voice like silk and steel cut through the darkness. "You're in the wrong car." She looked up into the eyes of Seo Joon-woo, Seoul's most dangerous man, and watched something fierce and possessive ignite in his gaze. In that moment, both their fates were sealed. Welcome to Afro-Korean romance. Like, share, and subscribe. Chowend's heart slammed against her ribs as she registered the man watching her from the driver's seat. He was devastating, sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, and an aura of controlled violence that made every instinct scream danger. This wasn't her Uber. This was a catastrophic mistake. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, reaching for the door handle with trembling fingers. "I thought the app said black SUV and I just assumed." "Don't move." His command was quiet but absolute, the kind of voice that made grown men obey without question. Joon-woo's mind raced even as something primal awakened in his chest. He'd been waiting for his second in command, not this beautiful woman whose presence had just shattered his carefully controlled world. She froze, hand still on the handle, rain-soaked and vulnerable. Joon-woo turned fully in his seat and Chowend's breath caught. He was younger than she'd initially thought, maybe early 30s, but his eyes held the weight of someone who'd seen too much darkness. The expensive suit, the controlled posture, the subtle bulge of a weapon at his side, everything screamed danger. "Who sent you?" His English was perfect, tinged with an accent that sent shivers down her spine for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "No one. I'm a waitress at Marco's diner. I just finished a double shift and ordered a ride home." She thrust her phone toward him with shaking hands. "See, I made a mistake. I'm sorry." Joon-woo studied her phone, then her face. She was telling the truth. He'd built an empire on reading people, and she was genuine. She was also the most captivating woman he'd ever encountered, with curves that made his hands ache to touch, full lips and eyes that held a fire he recognized. Survival, strength, beauty forged in struggle. "The rain is getting worse," he said, surprising himself. He should send her away, eliminate this complication. Instead, he found himself wanting to protect her. "I'll take you home." "That's really not necessary." "It wasn't a request." His tone softened slightly. "You're soaked, it's late, this neighborhood isn't safe after dark." Chowend should have refused. Everything about him screamed danger, from the way he moved with predatory grace to the cold calculation in his eyes. But she was exhausted, broke, and the thought of waiting in the rain for another ride made her want to cry. "Okay," she whispered, "thank you." As Joon-woo pulled into traffic, his mind was already working. He'd have his tech team trace her real driver, ensure this wasn't an elaborate setup. In his world, coincidences didn't exist. But when he glanced at her in the rearview mirror, watching her wring water from her thick hair, something in him hoped this once fate had simply intervened. The silence stretched between them, heavy with tension. Chowend tried not to stare at the strong lines of his profile, the elegant way his hands gripped the steering wheel. He drove like he did everything else, with absolute control. "You work too hard," Joon-woo said suddenly, his observation cutting through the quiet. "Excuse me." "Your hands, your posture, the exhaustion in your eyes." He'd built his empire by reading people's weaknesses, but with her, he found himself wanting to ease her burdens instead of exploit them. "You're running yourself into the ground." Chowend looked down at her rough, work-worn hands. "We all do what we have to do to survive." Something in her voice made his chest tighten. He knew about survival, about doing whatever it took. But she shouldn't have to fight so hard. The protective urge that surged through him was irrational, unprecedented, and completely undeniable. By the time they reached her apartment building, a rundown complex in a neighborhood that made his jaw clench, Joon-woo had made a decision that would change everything. He exited the SUV before she could protest, opening her door with fluid grace. Rain immediately soaked his expensive suit, but he didn't seem to notice. "You'll get wet," Chowend protested, staring up at him. "I'm already wet." He extended his hand and she took it, electricity shooting through her at the contact. His hand was warm, strong, and completely engulfed hers. He walked her to the building entrance, his presence commanding and protective. "Thank you for the ride," she said softly, acutely aware of how wrong he looked in her shabby neighborhood, too polished, too dangerous, too everything. Joon-woo studied her face like he was memorizing it. "What's your name?" Giving her name felt dangerous, like handing him power. Chowend. Chowend, he repeated it like a vow. I'm Joon-woo. Goodbye, Joon-woo. Not goodbye, he reached out, tucking a wet curl behind her ear with unexpected gentleness. I'll see you again. It wasn't a question, it was a promise that sent heat cascading through her body despite the cold rain. The next morning, Chowend tried to convince herself she'd imagined the intensity in Joon-woo's eyes, the way her body had responded to his simplest touch. She had bills to pay, a life that didn't include mysterious men in expensive SUVs. But when her manager called her into his office with a strange expression, her stomach dropped. Someone paid off your student loans, he said, showing her the notification on his computer. All $55,000 cleared this morning, anonymous donor. Chowend's blood turned to ice. What? That's impossible. The bank confirmed it, they can't disclose who, but, he gave her a meaningful look. You haven't gotten mixed up with anyone dangerous, have you? She thought about Joon-woo's eyes, the gun at his side, the way he'd commanded her to stay still with absolute authority. I don't know, she whispered. That evening, the black SUV was waiting when she left work. Chowend marched to the passenger window as it rolled down, anger warring with something dangerously close to excitement. Did you pay my loans? She demanded, leaning down to glare at him. Joon-woo's eyes traveled over her face with possessive intensity. Yes. You had no right. I had every right. He stepped out of the vehicle and she had to crane her neck to maintain eye contact. God, he was tall. You needed help, I helped. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. He moved closer and she could smell his cologne, expensive, intoxicating. It's an investment. In what? In you. In us. He said it like it was already decided, like she'd already agreed to something she didn't understand. There is no us, Chupin's heart raced. We met once, you gave me a ride, that's all. Is it? He stepped closer, crowding her space in a way that should have felt threatening but instead felt electrifying. Then why haven't I stopped thinking about you? Why did I spend last night ensuring your building has proper security, that your door lock actually works, that the street lights in your neighborhood are functional? You what? I replaced your lock, it was broken, anyone could have entered your apartment. His jaw clenched with barely restrained fury at the thought. That's unacceptable. Chupin didn't know whether to be angry or touched. You can't just, you don't even know me. I know enough. His hand came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. I know you work yourself to exhaustion trying to build something better. I know you're stronger than you believe. And I know that when I look at you, something in me recognizes something in you, and I've never felt anything like it. Joon-woo, his name was a plea she didn't understand. Have dinner with me? His thumb stroked her cheek and she felt that touch everywhere. Let me know you properly. Every rational thought screamed that this was too fast, too intense, too impossible. But when she looked into his eyes and saw longing that matched her own, resistance felt futile. One dinner, she whispered. His smile was devastating. One dinner. 3 days later, a dress arrived at Chupin's apartment, midnight blue silk that would hug her curves perfectly with a price tag that made her lightheaded. The note was simple, wear this tonight, I'll pick you up at 7. J. She should return it, should tell him she couldn't be bought with expensive gifts and paid-off loans. But when she slipped the dress on and saw how it made her look powerful, beautiful, desirable, she couldn't bring herself to take it off. At 7 precisely, Joon-woo knocked. When she opened the door, the look in his eyes made every self-conscious thought evaporate. He stared at her like she was art, like she was everything. Beautiful, he murmured, offering his arm, though you'd be beautiful in anything. Heat flooded her cheeks, smooth. Honest, his hand settled on her lower back as they walked to his SUV, possessive and warm. I don't lie to you, Chupin, I won't ever lie to you. He took her to a private restaurant, the kind with no prices on the menu and staff who clearly recognized and feared him. Chupin noticed how other diners whispered and averted their eyes when he passed, how the owner himself came to greet them with nervous deference. What exactly do you do, Joon-woo? She asked once they were seated in a private room overlooking the city. He studied her for a long moment. I manage business interests, protect investments, ensure certain operations run smoothly. That's deliberately vague. It needs to be, he leaned forward, intensity pinning her in place. My world is complicated and often dangerous, but I promise you this, I will never let that danger touch you. Maybe I don't need protecting. Maybe not, his smile held danger and promise, but you're going to get it anyway. Throughout dinner, Chowend found herself drawn deeper into Junwoo's orbit. He asked questions that showed he'd actually listened when she'd talked about her dreams of opening her own restaurant. He was unexpectedly funny, making her laugh with dry observations, and he focused on her with an intensity that made her feel like the most important person in the world. By dessert, she'd almost forgotten about the danger that clung to him like a shadow, almost. There's something you need to understand, Junwoo said, his expression growing serious. Men in my position have enemies, people who might try to hurt me by hurting those I care about. We've had one dinner, she protested weakly. Chowend, he reached across the table, taking her hand. Do you really think this is just dinner? Do you feel it as casual? No, she felt it as something cataclysmic, world-altering, dangerous. What do you want from me? Everything, his brutal honesty stole her breath. I want to know everything about you, I want to protect you, provide for you, make you smile, I want to wake up thinking about you and fall asleep knowing you're safe, I want, he stopped, jaw clenching, I want things I've never wanted before. Her heart hammered, you barely know me. Then let me know you, let me prove this isn't insanity, it's fate. The following week passed in a whirlwind. Junwoo texted her good morning and good night. He showed up at the diner during her breaks with her favorite coffee. He sent flowers to her apartment with notes that made her heart race. He had a car pick her up for work, claiming it was for safety, but she suspected he just wanted to take care of her. And despite every warning bell, Chowend fell hard. But on Friday night, everything shifted. She was wiping down tables when a handsome customer started flirting, asking for her number, complimenting her smile. She politely declined, but he persisted, getting increasingly aggressive. She didn't notice Junwoo enter until the temperature in the room seemed to drop. He moved with lethal grace, positioning himself between her and the customer with barely contained violence radiating from every line of his body. She said no, Junwoo's voice was death itself. The customer paled, recognition dawning. I was just. Leave, one word, but the command in it made the man practically run from the diner. Chowend stared at Junwoo, seeing him truly for the first time, not the gentle man who brought her coffee but the dangerous one who'd built an empire on fear. That was unnecessary, she said quietly. He touched your arm, he made you uncomfortable. Junwoo's hands clenched into fists. That's unacceptable. You can't threaten everyone who talks to me. Watch me, the possessiveness in his eyes should have scared her. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in her belly. Later that night, he drove her home in tense silence. When they reached her building, Chowend turned to him, needing to understand. Why are you doing this, really? Junwoo's control cracked. Because from the moment you stumbled into my car, something in me knew you were mine, because I've spent my whole life being ruthless and empty, and then you appeared and suddenly I want to be better. Because when I see another man touch you, I want to burn the world down. Junwoo. I'm trying to be patient, trying to let you come to me at your own pace, but seeing him touch you, his voice roughened, it took everything in me not to. Chowend didn't let him finish. She kissed him, pouring weeks of tension and longing into the contact. Junwoo groaned. Hands coming up to frame her face as he deepened the kiss with desperate intensity. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. Come upstairs, she whispered. Chowend, if I come upstairs, I won't want to leave. Then don't. They made it to her apartment, barely. Junwoo's control hung by a thread as Chowend fumbled with her new lock, the one he'd installed. Once inside, the tension between them was electric, unbearable. I need you to understand something, Junwoo said, voice rough with restraint. Once we cross this line, there's no going back. You'll be mine, and I don't share, I don't let go. Then don't let go. Chowend reached for him, and the last of his control shattered. He kissed her like a man starving, like she was air and he'd been drowning. His hands mapped her curves with reverent intensity while hers fumbled with his suit jacket. They stumbled toward her bedroom, shedding barriers both physical and emotional. The world narrowed to breathless touches, whispered names, and the feeling of finally being seen, truly seen, by another person. Joon-woo worshipped her with a tenderness that contradicted everything dangerous about him, and Chowend surrendered completely, letting herself fall into the overwhelming rightness of being in his arms. Later, wrapped in her sheets with his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, Chowend felt fear creep in. This was too perfect, too intense. Men like Joon-woo didn't stay with women like her. This was temporary, it had to be. As dawn broke, she carefully extracted herself from his embrace. Joon-woo stirred but didn't wake, exhaustion finally claiming him. Chowend dressed quietly, scribbling a note that said she had an early shift and slipped out of her own apartment like a thief. She needed space to think, to protect her heart from the inevitable moment when he realized she wasn't worth the complication. Joon-woo woke to cold sheets and a note that made his blood run cold. He knew fear, recognized it in the carefully casual words she'd written. She was running, protecting herself from hurt he'd never inflict. He called her phone, no answer, texted, nothing. By noon, when she still hadn't responded, worry morphed into determination. He'd found her once by accident, he'd find her again on purpose. His second-in-command, Kim, entered his office with a tablet. "Sir, we have a problem. Unless Chowend is in danger, I don't care." "It's related." Kim pulled up security footage. Lee Sang-ho's men have been watching her building, they know about her. Ice flooded Joon-woo's veins. Lee Sang-ho, his chief rival, a man who'd been trying to undermine his organization for years. If Sang-ho knew about Chowend, she was already a target. "Where is she?" Joon-woo demanded. "At work, but sir, Sang-ho's men are moving into position around the diner." Joon-woo was already grabbing his jacket. "Get everyone now." Chowend was refilling coffee when she noticed the men, 3 of them sitting separately but watching her with cold calculation. Her instincts, honed by years of reading difficult customers, screamed danger. She approached her manager. "I need to leave early, family emergency." But when she headed for the back exit, one of the men stood, blocking her path. Her heart hammered as she reversed direction, only to find the others closing in. "Chowend Elvis," the leader smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're coming with us." "I don't think so." She grabbed a coffee pot, wielding it like a weapon. "Back off. We can do this easy or hard, but you're coming either way. Our boss wants to send a message to Seo Joon-woo." Terror lanced through her. This was about Joon-woo. She was exactly the complication she'd feared becoming. The leader lunged. Chowend threw the hot coffee, making him scream, but the others grabbed her. She fought, kicking and screaming, but they were dragging her toward the door when gunshots shattered the windows. Everyone hit the floor. Chowend's captors released her, reaching for their own weapons, but they never got the chance. Joon-woo entered like an avenging angel, flanked by a dozen men in black. The violence was swift and brutal, his men disarming Sang-ho's operatives with professional efficiency. Joon-woo's eyes found Chowend on the floor, and the raw relief in his expression made her chest ache. He was at her side in seconds, pulling her up and into his arms. "Are you hurt?" His hands ran over her, checking for injuries with barely controlled panic. "I'm fine, I'm okay," but she was shaking, adrenaline crashing through her system. "Get her out of here," Joon-woo ordered Kim. "Take her to the safe house, I'll handle this." "No," Chowend grabbed his jacket. "Don't leave me." Something in his expression softened. "I'm not leaving you, I'm protecting you, there's a difference." He carried her to his SUV himself, settling her in the back before joining her. As they drove, his arms stayed locked around her like he could shield her from the world through sheer will. "This is my fault," Chowend whispered. "I shouldn't have, we shouldn't have." "Don't," his voice was steel. "Don't you dare blame yourself for this. Sang-ho has been looking for weakness for years. If it wasn't you, it would have been something else. But I swear to you," he tilted her face up, forcing her to meet his fierce gaze, "I will burn his entire organization to the ground for touching you." "Joon-woo, I told you once I don't let go. Did you think I was joking?" His thumb stroked her cheek. "You're mine, Chowend, mine to protect, mine to cherish, and anyone who threatens you threatens me." The safe house was a luxury apartment in a secured building. Joon-woo's men swept it before allowing them entry, and then he stationed guards at every entrance. Once they were alone, Chowend finally broke. "I left this morning because I was scared, because it's too much, too fast, and I thought if I pulled away first it would hurt less when you eventually." "When I eventually what?" Left you? Joon-woo looked genuinely baffled. Chowend, I've reorganized my entire life around you in 2 weeks. I've thought about you every waking moment. I've made plans that involve you in every possible future I can imagine. When exactly did you think I was planning to leave? You're you and I'm just the woman I love, he said it simply like it was obvious. The woman I would kill for, die for, the only person who's ever made me want something beyond power and survival. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You love me. Desperately, completely, probably since the moment you collapsed into my car and looked at me like I was a problem to solve instead of a monster to fear. He wiped her tears with gentle fingers. I know it's fast, I know it's insane, but I also know it's real. I love you too, she whispered. I'm terrified, but I love you too. His kiss was tender, reverent. Nothing like the desperate passion of the previous night. This was a promise, a vow sealed with lips and breath and overwhelming emotion. The next morning, Joon-woo's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened, then he turned to Chowend with lethal calm. Sang-ho has made a formal challenge. He wants to meet neutral ground tomorrow night. If I don't show, he'll come after you with everything he has. Then you can't go, it's obviously a trap. I know it's a trap. Joon-woo's smile was cold. But he's made a critical mistake. He's threatened the only thing in this world I care about more than my own life. He thinks that makes me weak. He's about to learn it makes me unstoppable. That evening, Joon-woo sat Chowend down in his home office. She'd refused to stay at the safe house without him. I need you to listen carefully, he said, pulling out documents. If something happens to me tomorrow, everything I have goes to you, my businesses, my accounts, my properties. Kim will help you navigate it all. Stop, Chowend's hands shook. You're not going to die. I don't plan to, but in my world, plans mean nothing. He cupped her face. I need to know you'll be taken care of. I need you, not your money, not your empire, you. Then trust me to come back to you, he kissed her forehead. Trust that I'll do whatever it takes to make sure we have a future. The following night felt like the longest of Chowend's life. Kim and 2 other guards stayed with her at Joon-woo's penthouse while he went to face Sang-ho. She paced, unable to eat or rest, imagining every terrible possibility. At the warehouse, Joon-woo faced his enemy with cold calculation. Sang-ho had brought 20 men. Joon-woo had brought 50, positioned strategically around the building. You've become predictable, Seo, Sang-ho sneered, weak over a woman. You've become desperate, Lee, Joon-woo countered. Attacking civilians because you can't touch me directly. She's not a civilian anymore, she's leverage. Sang-ho gestured and more men appeared, dragging a struggling figure, not Chowend but her manager from the diner, terrified and bound. Joon-woo's expression didn't flicker. Harming innocent people won't save you. But it will hurt her, and hurting her hurts you. Sang-ho pulled a gun. So here's how this works. He never finished. Joon-woo moved with lethal precision, disarming Sang-ho and dropping him with brutal efficiency while his men engaged Sang-ho's forces. The fight was swift and decisive. Joon-woo had planned for every contingency. Within minutes, Sang-ho was on his knees, defeated and surrounded. You have 2 choices, Joon-woo said quietly, gun pressed to his rival's temple. Leave Seoul tonight and never return, or die here, choose quickly. Sang-ho chose survival. By dawn, he and his remaining men were fleeing the city, their organization in shambles. Joon-woo returned home as the sun rose, exhausted and bruised but alive. Chowend launched herself at him the moment he entered and he caught her, holding tight. It's over, he murmured into her hair. You're safe, we're safe. She pulled back, examining his face, the cut on his cheek, the bruises forming on his jaw. You're hurt. I'm alive, that's what matters. Joon-woo, she took a shaky breath. I can't live like this, constantly afraid someone will hurt you or use me against you. His heart stopped. Chowend. So you need to marry me, she said it firmly despite her tears. Make it official, make it clear that I'm not just someone you care about, I'm yours completely and you're mine, and anyone who threatens us threatens something unbreakable. Relief and joy crashed through him. Is that a proposal? Yes, you idiot, I'm proposing. His laugh was pure happiness. Then yes, absolutely yes, he kissed her deeply, but I'm buying the ring. 3 months later, they married in a private ceremony with only his most trusted people present. Chowend wore white silk and Joon-woo couldn't take his eyes off her. When he slid the ring onto her finger, platinum with diamonds that caught the light, he made vows that had nothing to do with tradition and everything to do with truth. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you for every day I have left on this earth. You saved me from a life of emptiness. You're my redemption, my purpose, my everything. Chowend's vows were equally simple and profound. I promise to stand beside you, trust you, and love you through every storm. You saw me when I felt invisible. You're my safety, my home, my heart. Their kiss as husband and wife was witnessed by tears and cheers, and for the first time in his life, Joon-woo felt completely whole. 1 year later, Chowend stood in the kitchen of their new home, not the penthouse but a beautiful house with a garden where she could grow herbs for the restaurant she now owned. Joon-woo had helped her open it, insisting she pursue her dreams while he gradually shifted his organization toward legitimate businesses. She heard him enter, his footsteps familiar and beloved. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, his hands splaying across her rounded belly. "How are my two favorite people?" he murmured, pressing a kiss to her neck. "Your daughter is active today. I think she has your energy." "God help us both." But his voice was full of wonder. "I never thought I could have this, a family, a future beyond survival." Chowend turned in his arms, cupping his face. "You have it, we have it, everything we fought for. Because you stumbled into the wrong car." His smile was tender. "Best mistake of my life. Best decision of mine, staying when every instinct told me to run." He kissed her softly, reverently, pouring love and gratitude into the contact. Outside, the sun set over their garden, painting everything gold. Inside, they held each other, two people who'd found salvation in the most unexpected way. The waitress and the mafia boss, the woman who'd had nothing and the man who'd had everything except what mattered most. Together, they'd built something neither danger nor fear could destroy, a love that had conquered darkness and emerged into light. Their daughter would be born 3 months later with her father's eyes and her mother's smile. And as Joon-woo held his wife and child in the hospital room, surrounded by the family he'd chosen and the one he'd created, he finally understood what it meant to truly live. Not survive, not conquer, but love. And that made him the most powerful man in the world.